Makeshift's October 2021 issue is entitled ACCLIMATORS. It's about how to safeguard the future with innovations that take the edge off global warming. And as usual, anytime we mention facts, figures, reports, and innovations, we'll make sure to link them in the written report. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the Greta Thunberg quote, "I want you to act as if your house is on fire," because it is. As the world teeters on the brink of a literal meltdown, consumers are looking for resources that help them deal with climate change's immediate effects. So, while you work on that sustainability 5-year plan, it's time to also think of some quick, actionable ways that your brand can provide consumers with physical and psychological respite from the unfolding crisis. And in case you missed the memo, the due date was yesteryear. So here's a not-so-fun fact. The total number of weather-related disasters around the world has increased 5-fold over the past 50 years. But consumers everywhere are wising up, tweaking their lifestyles to mitigate the worst effects of climate change. The mentality of the moment is simple. We might not be able to press rewind on the frenzied weather conditions and loss of biodiversity, but through collective adaptation, we can at least press pause. From flash floods in New York subways to tornadoes in Greater London to lightning strikes in India, it's becoming increasingly clear that climate change is no longer exclusive to flashpoints like the polar ice caps or the Amazon rainforest. It's the aggressive elephant in the room that nobody, consumers and brands alike, can ignore. And you don't need to have been scorched by wildfires to feel the pain. Hot on the heels of the IPCC's 6th assessment report, The Lancet reported that 45% of young people across 10 countries are finding that climate-related anxiety is affecting their daily life. Sustainable, climate-neutral, and regenerative products are fast becoming the benchmark for everyday purchases, with 57% of APAC consumers claiming that they'd stop buying from a brand if they discovered it had lackluster sustainability credentials. In tomorrow's even more fractious climate, brands will shift up a gear, offering products and services that help consumers make the most of their lives, despite the adverse conditions. Responding to the needs of a world in crisis isn't just a way to diversify your brand's output, it's an opportunity to safeguard your future. Now on to 3 innovations that grapple with the direct effects of climate change. When severe flooding affected the Henan province of China in July 2021, causing approximately 100,000 people to be evacuated, Alibaba-owned AutoNavi launched an emergency feature to assist those trapped. Users of the AutoNavi map app could click the standing water button to indicate their location to emergency services, post SOS messages, and share nearby places of shelter and emergency rescue phone numbers. And of course, charities are also pitching in. Rising sea temperatures have radically disrupted the marine biosphere, drawing into question the livelihoods of people in coastal villages like Jambiani, Zanzibar. Rather than rely on income from low-yield seaweed farming or dwindling fish stocks, the Switzerland-based charity marinecultures.org is training women to grow climate-resilient natural sponges. Having launched in 2009, in June 2021, marinecultures.org announced it was pulling out of the daily business and giving full independence to the sponge farmers. And even artists and urban planners are pitching in. To help cool scorching urban heat zones, in August 2021, the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, a regional planning group based in Boston, US, released a guidebook explaining how municipal governments can work with artists and community-based organizations to weave temperature reduction into urban infrastructure. Suggestions include using reflective paint for murals, designing shaded bus stops, and installing water play equipment on quiet sidewalks. And here are another 3 innovations, this time dealing with climate change's indirect or psychological effects. To ease the anxieties of environmentally savvy consumers, on Earth Day, April 2021, the plant-based food brand and B Corp, Silk, launched a series of 45-minute eco-counseling sessions. The campaign aimed to transform climate warriors with an O into climate warriors with an A, by offering up ways in which consumers could create change, by lobbying local governments, for instance. According to IKEA, fortune favors the frugal. Climate anxiety can be paralyzing, leaving the eco-conscious feeling helpless in the face of an insurmountable task. In Q1 of 2021, IKEA launched its Fortune Favors the Frugal campaign, highlighting how its products can be used to further consumer sustainability drives and to lessen the burden of eco-anxiety. The cheerful, multi-platform campaign applied a light touch to a heavy issue, a refreshing and impactful approach. And our final innovation comes from the gaming industry. Survive the Century is an online game launched in July 2021, which asks players to steer the course of Earth's future. As the head of a global media organization, players choose which news stories to publish and then watch how the world manages the consequences of their actions. It was devised by students at the University of Maryland to help consumers understand the consequences of their everyday choices. Now let's take a look at some of the opportunities that ACCLIMATORS presents you as a business. First up, pick your camp. Will your brand follow in the footsteps of the first three innovations and help people on the ground? Or do you like the last three initiatives that soothe the pressures of eco-anxiety? Remember, we're talking about short-term solutions here, so stick to what you know. Perhaps you're perfectly placed to offer disaster relief. Think off-grid toolkits and emergency shelter. Maybe you have the resources to build more resilient urban infrastructure, which absorbs environmental aggressors. When it comes to managing climate anxiety, the possibilities are endless, but time is of the essence. And don't be afraid to embrace technology for this one. Together, China, Germany, Japan, the Republic of Korea, and the US account for nearly 2/3 of all high-value climate adaptation innovations. But very little of this patented knowledge trickles down to low and middle-income countries, the countries who need it most. The world is waiting for a tech-savvy brand to turn this global socio-economic issue into the next meaningful business opportunity. Could you be a pivotal force in bridging the resource gap between the haves and the have-nots? And if you're brave enough, why not go for the double impact whammy? The juiciest ACCLIMATOR innovations are those that both take the edge off the more immediate effects of climate change, while reducing consumers' environmental footprint at the same time. For example, Barcelona's city council created Cool Walks, an app which helps pedestrians plot walking routes that avoid UV exposure, including vampire mode, no direct sunlight at all. This initiative both has immediate value to consumers and gently nudges them to take the most carbon-efficient means of transport possible, their own 2 feet. Before we go, we'd like to leave you with some ways that you can embed ACCLIMATORS into your brand. And as we said before, anything we mention here we'll make sure to link in the written report. Firstly, get clued up on eco-anxiety. Our sibling brand, Business of Purpose, published a newsletter on this very topic. Next, to kickstart your thinking around ACCLIMATORS, review this list of existing research and innovation projects and think about what's a natural fit for your brand. And it's not just about humans. Animals are suffering too. The Wildlife Adaptation Innovation Fund supports the testing of new ideas that have potential to reduce the vulnerability of wildlife. How can you contribute? Also, consumers are experiencing more than just climate anxiety. Revisit the May edition of Makeshift, Minecraft, and discover ways to help consumers build emotional resilience in an uncertain world. And finally, get more of our content by signing up to our free trend updates. It's purposefully designed to jumpstart your purpose-driven innovation, or PDI as we call our methodology. Thanks so much for listening to this issue of Makeshift, and if you aren't already subscribed, head to www.trendwatching.com to sign up for all our free trend updates.